Going, just to let people know, if there is a fire alarm goes off, you can exit through either door and, follow me, I'll be first. Got a minute yet before we start properly. Right, good evening ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of Pendle Council's Executive. I'm going to start with introductions and give one apology from Councillor David Hartley. I don't expect you to sing a round of happy birthday, but it is his birthday, and his wife has taken him for a surprise meal out. He was expecting to come, but no, he's been whirled away for a dining experience beyond no other.
Happy birthday to him.
So, can I introduce myself? My name is David Whip. I chair the executive and I'm leader of Pendle Council. If I go to my left.
My name's Dean Langton and I'm the chief executive.
I'm Karen Spencer, I'm the director of resources.
Good evening, I'm Philip Spur, director of police.
Good evening, David Walker, Assistant Director for Operational Services.
Good evening, Councillor Andy Bell for Ivor Bridge.
Councillor Lola Whip for Benalswick Ward.
Councillor Zafar Ali for Ryfield, East and Clover Hill, portfolio holder for Housing and Customer Services.
Councillor Hanif, member for Blyfield and Relay.
Councillor Ashad Mahood, Deputy Leader of the Council.
Good evening, Iftikhar Bukhari, Head of Economic Growth.
Sarah Whitwell, Head of Housing and Answer.
Paul Preston, Democratic Services Manager.
Howard Culshaw, Head of Legal and Democratic Services and Monitoring Officer.
Thank you very much. We also have 4 more councillors. If I could ask them to introduce themselves, please. Ash?
Councillor Ash Sutcliffe for Waterside and Hallsfield and Cole.
Sarah Coburn Price, Councillor for Bullswood and Fowledge.
Councillor David Coburn Price for Bullswood and Fowledge as well.
Councillor Yasser Iqbal, Bryfield and Ridley.
Thank you very much. And can I just check? I've got Alan, Peter and Laura. Could you just introduce yourselves, please, if you're here?
I'm Peter Wilkinson.
Thank you, Peter.
Alan, and Laura's unfortunately ill.
Okay, right. So I've got Alan and Peter on the back row. Can I make you aware, if you're not already aware, the meeting is live streamed, and John, who's running the system, will film you unless you tell me that you don't want to be filmed, in which case he'll studiously point the camera somewhere else. Is that okay? Yeah? Thank you very much. Right, on that note, I'm going to suggest that we just move item 6 up the agenda, because our speakers are on item 6. So after we've dealt with the minutes, we'll do item 6, which is the cemetery of Halifax Road. Declarations of interest. I need to declare an interest in item 4, which is the Bankhouse Road site, and that's as a consequence of me being a director of the joint venture Pembroke, which is involved with the proposal.
Thank you, James. It's the same here. I'm a board member of Pembroke, so we'd like to declare interest as well.
Thank you very much. Are there any further declarations of interest? Nope. We will move on. Item 2 is public question time. This is an opportunity for members of the public to raise any issues affecting Pendle which aren't otherwise on the agenda. Could I ask if there are any? Nope. Thank you. Item 3, the minutes of last meeting. Somebody move those as a correct record. Moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right. That then does bring us on to item 6. As I mentioned, we have got 2 speakers. If you want to come forward and speak, you're very welcome, or you can speak from where you are. My hearing isn't the best, so you may need to project. Right, I'll take Alan first.
anywhere to get some water?
Water? Yeah, we'll sort it out. Kieran's going to sort your water.
Can I just ask one question first before I start?
Well, you can ask plenty of questions.
Yeah, that's all right. Mr. Walker, I sent you an email reference to the people that tendered. Can we have all the tendered prices for all the 4?
Well, let me respond to that, Alan. I won't start the time just yet. We had 2 tenders.
Yeah.
The other people who were involved with the process didn't go through to complete their tenders. That's my understanding. But when you've spoken and the other speakers have come in, I'll ask officers to respond to the various queries that are raised, including that one. Okay.
Right, we'll stop off at that.
Right, you've got up to 5 minutes, Alan. Thank you very much.
You'll have to excuse me voice because it disappears at the end. Right, as the council carried out a Dun & Bradstreet or equivalent financial capability check on the selected contractor as part of the due diligence before committing public funds. That's question 1.
Yep.
Given that Company's House and the company's own website describe it primarily as a landscape gardening firm, what assessment has been made of the suitability to deliver a project involving substantial earthworks and civil engineering? And with only 41 employers listed at Company's House and a contract value exceeding the company's reported annual turnover, what assurances does the council have that the contractor has the necessary skills, experiences and resources to deliver this 1.4 million project? Can the council make the full tender pack sent to the interested companies available to the public? What detailed information were the bidders asked to price against, given that there appears to be no finalised plans whatsoever for the access road, a major engineering, civil engineering element? There is no design for the drainage proposal and no confirmed numbers of the burial plots to be delivered. How can the council be confident in value for money if bidders were pricing against incomplete or clearly undefined project? Lancashire County, I have an email from them, has stated that the approved access road plans are required before the project can proceed. Is there an agreed date when these plans will be produced? My argument on all this is there's no plans for anything. How can anybody possibly quote? CDS has already identified springs and watercourses on the site in their plans, and groundwater protection guidance states that burial should not be within 30 metres of such features. Has the council assessed the impact of this requirement? If applied, the council accepts that almost 1,500 burial plots in phase 1 could be unsuitable. Given that, how does the council reconcile these findings with project manager public statement that all groundwater requirements will be adhered to? Drainage and flooding. Why is there still no drainage plan for the site? Why has there been no contact with United Utilities since 2025? Particularly given that they will only allow a minimal volume of discharge into their network. United Utilities has stated that Pendle Council miscalculated the surface runoff water of that area by a factor of 10. How does the council propose to manage this drainage on this site? Was this drainage uncertainty made clear to the companies tendering the work? Environment. The Environment Agency has stated this cemetery requires a permit due to the flood risk. Has this permit been applied for?
One more minute, Alan.
It appears not. If not, why was the capital expenditure committed before checking whether the land was suitable? Does the council accept that? This has been addressed earlier. It could have saved up to £1.5 million of public funds. In the event of groundwater pollution, does the council accept full liability for remediation and associated costs? What consideration has the council given to residents concerned through this process, and where is the evidence? Given that Pendle will cease to exist within approximately 18 months due to local government restructuring, who will be accountable if this project fails or incurs long-term environmental financial liability? How does the council justify committing 2 seconds?
Yeah.
How does this council justify committing further public funds to a high-risk project when future governance and accountabilities are uncertain?
Thank you, Alan. I'll ask officers to respond to your questions when Peter's spoken. Peter, do you want to come forward as well?
Well,
I see you brought your own water. Yeah, again, you've got 5 minutes, so whenever you're ready.
No problem. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for allowing me to speak tonight. I do so as a concerned member of the public with an interest in ensuring that council decisions represent sound value for money and protect the long-term financial position of Pendle Borough Council. I am aware that council has reported there is a projected shortfall of approximately £892,000 for the coming financial year, and in that context it seems particularly important that large capital projects are scrutinised carefully, not just on headline costs but on their overall risk, deliverability and long-term financial impact. With that in mind, excuse me, I would like to raise some concerns regarding the tender outcome for the new cemetery project. While cost control is clearly important, the winning tender figure appears extremely low for a project of this size and complexity. As a member of the public, this gives rise to understandable questions about whether the price submitted is realistic and sustainable. The new cemetery is a sensitive, long-term public asset. It involves not only landscaping but also drainage, access, phasing, compliance and long-term maintenance considerations. My understanding is that the successful bidder is primarily a landscape gardening contractor and has not previously delivered a project on this scale. This is not a criticism of the company, but it does raise questions about capacity and experience relative to this task. I've spoken directly with one of the companies that submitted a tender. They advised me that the tenderers were issued with a site layout drawing but very limited additional information or detailed specifications. That company was Ground Control, a well-established national contractor with extensive experience in cemetery and large-scale infrastructure projects. They have delivered schemes of comparable size and significantly larger, and their reported turnover is just under 190 million. Now, the company that has been chosen for the tender, Beavers, is a turnover of £1 million. So £100 million for Ground Control, suggesting strong organisational capacity and resilience. Based on their experience and working with limited detail, they have submitted what appears to be a more cautious and realistic tender price. However, they were not selected. This leads me to ask how experience, capacity and project risk were weighted in the evaluation process, and whether the difference in price, reported to be over £4 million, was the primary determining factor.
No, can I just, there isn't a £4 million difference. Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
difference is 3 million.
Difference, sorry.
400,000.
400,000.
There isn't a big
The difference, the difference between
We only had 2 tenders.
four tenders, 2 were whittled out.
Well, no, they didn't fulfil the tender requirements, so they weren't tenders that were selected.
Is that because the price was too high?
No.
From a public perspective, there is concerns that an exceptionally low tender may carry hidden risk, the potential for failure, for future variations, delays, or additional financial burden fall back on the council at the later stage. Given the council's recent financial challenges, I believe residents would welcome reassurance that this decision represents genuine best value, not simply the lowest initial cost, and that sufficient safeguards are in place to protect public finances over the life of the project. I therefore ask the Executive to consider providing clarity on the rationale behind the tender decision, the measures in place to manage financial and delivery risk, and how the Council will ensure this project does not add further strain to an already challenging financial position. So one final question: how can the Council assure residents that selecting such a low tender for a complex long-term project will not ultimately result in higher costs and greater financial risk for the public purse? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you all. Before I bring officers in to respond to the various points that have been made, I'd just like to say I'm in a peculiar position here because I've questioned this project. We've, as a group, we put proposals at the full council to get it reviewed, and I haven't been the most keen person for this project in its the form that it is to go ahead. So I sit here as leader of the council, not defended necessarily, but responding to points about a project that I wouldn't have gone ahead with in the shape that it is. However, it's been the will of the council on 2 occasions, maybe 3, that this project did go ahead. There has been a majority on the Pendle Council, and I've got to accept that in this instance I'm involved with delivering a scheme that wasn't the top of my priority list, but there you go. We are where we are. I'm going to ask colleagues on my left to respond to the various points. I don't know whether, Philip, you're going to lead off, or
well, with your being
Dean or
chair,
David?
I can make 1 or 2 kind of headline statements, and then maybe David can try and fill in some of the detail, if that's okay.
I'll do my best, Chair.
Yes, okay. I guess what I'd say for the start for 10 Chair is the fact that the borough clearly needs new cemetery provision. The current provision is running out and will be exhausted in a period of time, particularly in Nelson. So there is an important need to provide this much needed and required public facility and public service within Nelson and within the broader Pendle areas. That's the strategic context, what we're seeking to do here. The site was acquired very much on that basis, and what we've done is we've taken expert professional advice from a very experienced cemetery development company who's worked with us in terms of planning the development and in terms of these specific elements of the tender process. That company's guided us. They have significant experience. There's limited experience within the authority, And so we've worked very closely with that company over a period of a number of months, in fact maybe a couple of years. As I say, they've actually informed the tender process. They were instrumental in developing the tender specification and then scoring the bids that came into us. So that's probably the broader context, if I can say that, Chair. David, I don't know if you can answer some of the more specific questions that have been raised.
Thank you for the, I'll do the best, Chair.
Project, David.
I will do my best, Chair. Some of the specific questions were obviously around number of burial plots. The number of burial plots have been promoted widely.
David,
yes.
I'm afraid they're not hearing you at the back.
No. Sorry, Chair. So, picking up on the number of burial plots that was first raised by, I think it was Alan, the number of burial plots have been promoted or shown at each time we've revised the plans and have promoted the cemetery sites development. I think in total is 4,700 plus burial plots. Memorial plots exceed that, and in phase 1 there's 2,500 burial plots that I can recall from the top of my head. So that is covered. There is sufficient, significant numbers there. There was a question around burials within 30 metres of watercourse, and yes, we are aware of that. Our consultants have provided information on that, and that's why the reasons why we've done significant number of searches on the site. The plans that have been shown and were here for people to look at in November 23 and were displayed on number 1's windows showed that we were not burying or planning to use any surface land within 30 minutes of a plot, and those areas are deemed for parking or memorial spaces. So that is taken into account, so that shouldn't be a worry for you. The design for drainage, yes, we haven't publicly made full plans aware, but drainage is a significant part of the tender documentation, and the companies that were asked to provide bids and solutions have taken drainage into account and put this in their proposals. We have to deal with drainage as part of the planning conditions, and we of course are aware of that. And this part, once we've awarded the tender, we will work closely with the tender, the winning provider, and we will ensure that drainage is obviously and plans are put in place. But be assured, we have taken drainage, the need for drainage through the site, the attenuation pond, and the culvert renewal into account into the tender documents. Experience of the company. It was the first I knew of the two companies that we received the bids for. We employed CDS, as Philip says, because of their experience and skills. The two companies that we've got, we have done some due diligence since obviously receiving the tender document. The company have an experience of dealing with cemeteries and memorial gardens, and rightly so. They have done other things around parkland and other green spaces, but within their own website pages you can see they have experience of this kind of work. We have gone back and questioned on aspects of the bids, because rightly so, we are entitled to do that, and we have assurances from the CDS and CS2 who oversaw the operation for us that both groups and those before them that weren't pursued after period 1 have worked on the same specification, have worked to the same grading of materials, and have worked to the same quality. So I would say, based on that, I hope that answers the questions, offers some reassurance. I know you're not happy, but I think the outcome of the tender is the best value for the council.
Thank you. If I can bring Karen in, there was questions.
Could I give these out?
Yeah, if you want to, yes. Thank you, Alan. I'll just pause a minute and then bring Karen in. There were questions about the finances.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Karen?
Okay, if I can just come in, please. So, regarding the question about due diligence, obviously the council has contract procedure rules that we must follow before issuing any contracts, and whilst we're here tonight requesting approval of the executive for this contract, we are still undergoing the due diligence, so I can guarantee that the contract will not actually be awarded until we are satisfied with the due diligence we've undertaken, and we're satisfied that this company is capable of carrying out the works.
Okay, thank you. And the points that Peter raised were more generally about value for money, the council's revenue shortfall, which we'll be coming on to later on the agenda. Karen or Dean, do you want to comment about that wider issue about the affordability in terms of the council's overall finances? Let Dean come in on this one.
Yeah, so just to reassure members of the public, when we undertake contracts of this magnitude, there are some checks that we clearly undertake to make sure that we don't enter into the agreement and then ultimately it doesn't work out, because that clearly creates more work for everybody and we have to go through it. So we're as keen to ensure that this works as others are. And we'll do the necessary checks to make sure the contract is capable and has the financial capacity to undertake the works as appropriate. In terms of the project itself, as Philip has already mentioned, there is a requirement for more cemetery space. That's just what we are faced with. In terms of the impact of this on the council's budget, our view of that is that, of course, we'll be winding down one cemetery just to have another one coming on stream around the same time. So to some extent it would be broadly neutral. We'll be operating another one instead of one that's there already, in my view. So I don't think it will have such a significant impact detrimentally on the council's financial position. But of course we'll see that as we're setting budgets once the cemetery comes on stream, probably in 2027.
Okay, thank you. Can I just pick up on one point? Mr. Walker referred to there being 2,500 plots, and the figures in the report are 2,085 burial plots and 600 memorial areas. So it's 2,685 places, but they're not all burial spaces. And not to wind people up, but when the then leader of the council wanted the council to buy this land, previous administration, he referred to there being a total of 6,500 burial plots, which soon was reduced, and the total that I think Mr. Walker's just referred to is in the order of 4,500. So the basis of the council's acquisition from the former administration was questionable at the time, but nevertheless there was a majority in the council chamber to actually go ahead with that. Okay, I've got Councillor Hanif, and then Councillor Ali and Councillor Mahmood. So Hanif, it's your area anyway.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to all the residents who come. And thanks to the two speakers with all the questions you raised. For your information, I obviously have raised I've asked a lot of those questions of officers which you've raised. Okay? We've had several meetings, several questions, detailed, things like this. And in particular, obviously, the capacity of the organisations to deliver and who the bidders were, what process were followed, because it's not a small amount of money we're looking at. We're looking at 1.5 million, whatever that amount is. So obviously we have to make sure as councillors that we are satisfied that the project which we're going to be approving and delivering is worth the while, is cost effective, is meeting the needs of the residents, meeting the needs of the next 10, 20 years
Obviously, we also got to consider that Walter Lane, the burial space is reducing. We need to find an alternative. All that has been done. Today's meeting, Chair, is all about obviously approving the bids, not going to history, because obviously history has been agreed. The council has moved on. So looking at all these questions, I mean, I don't want to be repeating everything you've said. I was going to actually answer most of those, and Philip obviously has done some. So in short, I would say, can I move the recommendation, Chair, that has been proposed by officers? Okay.
Okay. Annie, can I just ask you to insert subject to the completion of due diligence?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. In order to reflect the point that was made over here.
Fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Fine,
so that's moved. Zafar, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader. I want to echo the words of Councillor Hanif, and like him, I've also worked with officers now for almost 2 years in bringing this project to where it has. And whilst we, at the very inception, we investigated a number of different sites, and this site was selected, I do appreciate the questions that have been brought forward by residents, and in fact they are prudent questions I would also be asking of this council. Whilst I'm an elected member of the council, I'm also a council taxpayer just like yourselves, and hence we have a similar conscience when it comes to spending this amount of money. But I want to thank officers, in fact, for bringing us to where we are to date. The tireless amount of work, in particular David Walker, who I've worked alongside now in my new portfolio and also in my previous portfolio. I can assure residents that this isn't just a case of a ticking box exercise. There's a significant amount of work that has gone into this in the background, and not only by officers but also those who are well placed and of course experienced enough to be able to guide this council in making the decisions that we are. So I'd like to second the recommendation as set out, and also echo the words of Councillor Hanif. Thank you, Chair.
Alistair.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo some of the points, I think the strategic point has been made that, for a number of years we've known that cemetery spaces within parts of Pendle are coming to like an end, if you will. So we need to find that extra capacity. And this site was identified a couple of years back. While some of the other sites were considered, this site was the most suitable. And that's why the council acquired and we're in this position. And then over the last couple of years, we've had some extensive consultation and also extensive works done on the site to get to the stage where we're at. We went through the planning process, and there are very strict planning conditions on within the planning documents, and we have to discharge those before the works can begin. The drainage, the access, and making it as the best value, and looking at the tendering process. Again, we've had the conversations where the works, the quality of works is like for like, but one of the bidders is a lot cheaper than the other bidder, the tenderer. Sorry. So I think the report documents that quite well. CDS is a very professional national company that's advising us, giving that expert advice, and so again, support the recommendation that's been moved here.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you. I would agree with a lot of what Zafar has said. It is clear that there is a need for a cemetery, that was flagged up by the previous administration, and many sites were looked at. But at the same time, I'm sympathetic with the residents, and I know that some of them have written to me, and they've fought a very long campaign, and actually probably have done a good job in forcing the council to focus and to look at all of the aspects. What they don't perhaps realise is that we're a small island, and every single piece of land in Pendle has a conflicting land use. Whether it's battery storage sites, whether it's solar power, wind power, houses, it could be farming, it could be commerce, and every single piece of land has a conflict. And I'm afraid with the Labour government and their build, baby build agenda, almost certainly had this cemetery not come forward, we would be looking at a massive housing estate. And you know, there is no getting away from that. There is no piece of land that is not looked at for a different land use in the whole borough. So with my climate emergency working group hat on, looking at paragraph 4.2 and also 5.2, I welcome the fact that there will be a net gain in the biodiversity, that money and effort will be put in to helping this area to improve from the climate and biodiversity area, and that might be a small bonus to residents who don't want this development to take place, but it actually is something that we can welcome and will improve the biodiversity of this area.
Thank you. Can I ask if are there any further speakers?
I would just like to say,
I'll be very lenient, Alan. Go on.
I know you haven't the problem. All I'm trying to say is we've got 5 minutes to prove our point. At the last one of the council meetings, we were promised any further drawings would go onto the portal. Now, as far as I know, there's no drawings whatsoever for any part of this that's accurate. You want to bulldoze ahead.
Thank you. In terms of planning documentation, they all do go onto the portal. There may be documentation within the tender process that's out with that system. So I don't have any familiarity with the particular project, but there will be different documents circulating about depending on what particular aspect of the scheme is being looked at. I haven't got any further councillors wanting to speak. No, the councillors, I'm afraid. Sorry. Andy?
Yeah. I'd just like to point out, I've been listening to the comments that have been made, and I am very considerate of that. But the consideration that I'm aware of tonight is that everything's already been done, it's already been, planning's been sorted out. This is just to authorise the tender to commence works.
Yeah. Subject to completion of due diligence.
Subject, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So that's been moved and seconded over here. Can I see those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Nobody against, so that is carried, and the council will continue with the due diligence and award the contract if that is satisfactory. Can I thank all the residents for coming along? You're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. If you want to leave, I'll pause for a minute or two to allow me to go out in a reasonable fashion. Thank you.
No, I found the actual planning permit. So now let's find the planning.
We are going to go on to the Bankhouse Road site next, and Asjad and I are going to leave. So I suggest in the traditional time-honoured fashion, not paying attention of course. Lola.
Sorry.
I'm going to suggest that you assume the chair when Asjad and I depart.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we're going on to item 4. We'll leave you to it for a little while.
Let's crack on.
I'm just giving people time to Scared. Right, okay. Item 4, Bankhouse Road site. Councillor Hanif.
Thank you, Chair. This is another one of those sites which has been on good for many, many years. And obviously we've tried to look at many different projects that can go on there. And officers have recently been scratching their heads with this. So not to spend a lot of time, again, congratulations to the officers. I think they've spent a lot of time, a lot of headaches, a lot of things like this. And I can go on chit-chat and spend quite a lot of time on this. But I'm going to propose to move the recommendation, so just we can get on with it. Thank you.
Councillor, are you seconding that motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I don't want to add any further comments.
Yeah. All those in favour?
Yeah.
That's unanimous.
Yeah.
I hope you got to your coffee for everybody, Chair?
No, it was only a
Come on,
cup of
Chair, this is
water.
not, yeah?
I don't think we had time to get any hot drinks.
Expertly chaired.
This is the sign of a very good
There
Chair.
we are, watch me back.
And the speakers.
Can you say what?
Right, thank you very much. So moving on then, item 5, domestic food waste collections. Zafar, this is your bag. Let you introduce it and then I'll make a scathing comment.
Oh. Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank David Walker again for his detailed briefing that I've had with him prior to tonight's executive. As ever, working tirelessly to deliver this new requirement as it sets out in the executive summary of the report. Obviously, this matter became law in November 2021 for weekly household food waste collections to take place, which has meant that this council has been further financially strapped with a heavy bill, which obviously is set out on page 2 of the report. The report is obviously an update in terms of progress that the council has made thus far in delivering this requirement. I can set out some of the more sort of headline items in the report, and I'll pass back over to you. But in terms of updates, there's been positive updates, in fact, and quite a lot of work gone on in ensuring that the scheme is delivered in a timely fashion in line with the deadlines set by law. Vehicles have been ordered for this council. I believe we've got 8 vehicles ordered. David Walker is nodding, so I've taken those notes down correctly. 3 vehicles are in fact arriving in February, and the remainder arriving by March. Caddies, we've got thousands of caddies. That's how it was put to me in the briefing. By the sounds of it, these are hundreds of thousands of caddies, which will probably be required.
Well, we're only going to get 43,000, so I hope we haven't got hundreds of thousands.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have thousands stored already. And in terms of the delivery of these caddies, these are going to be delivered to the front doors of properties, which I suspect this is something that you might want to pick up, or your comments are surrounded on that point. But we are promoting front door collections of waste in line with the same procedure for the delivery of caddies to the front door as well. This is to ensure that the fleets are moving. These are weekly collections. We have limited resources and timescales at the same time, so we're trying to promote front of property collections and waste collections as well. I just want to move quickly onto the waste transfer element, Chair, which I think is important for us to note. It does go into some detail in the report, but to start off with, the transfer of our food waste will go to Farrington during, it was put to me as a soft launch period at the beginning of the scheme. This is because the Fleet Street depot is still in fact being developed to accept the waste in question at the site, and this should be ready, and the work should be ready by April 2026. Of course, there are financial implications for what's being set out in front of us. We approved a capital budget for somewhere in the region of 280k, plus a further 800k came from DEFRA. I believe there's also, as it sets out in the report at paragraph 5.1 on page 3, there's a further 255k from DEFRA for transitional revenue. But what isn't clear at the moment, Chair, is the burden cost element of this. I understand that we are expecting an amount for, in order to deal with the burden element of this scheme. It's not clear, however, how much that funding is. I understand the government has set out the funding as part of the government settlement. I'll bring officers in at some point to talk about that. But we are already struggling financially, and unfortunately this scheme has set us back further, but it is law. Once again, I just want to thank officers in the work that they've done to bring the scheme in a timely fashion to try and meet deadlines. It doesn't put us any better financially, but let's see what the benefits are going forward. But yeah, I just want to present the report.
Thank you, Zafar. My scathing comment was on the last point that you mentioned there. The government, when they introduced fresh responsibilities for council, traditionally given what is called new burden funding. So you get a new burden on the council and the government funds it. This time around, and it's a point that we can pick up later on if we want, this time around the government have rolled all this money into the general grant that we get. So rather than getting the 1.2 million that this will cost to carry out, we can't actually see how much we get in, but you're talking coppers rather than millions, and to my mind, the government, whichever government, has said you've got to do this, and the government should fund it, and it shouldn't be at the expense of other services within Pendle, and it shouldn't be at the expense of people paying the council tax. So my criticism is that this isn't being fully funded by government, and it is a huge undertaking. If you think about weekly collections from over 40,000 properties, and week in, week out, 8 vehicles, scores of staff, it really is probably the biggest single development that Pendle Council has done, as far as I can remember anyway. And we did do a pilot of weekly food waste collections quite a few years ago now, which was on a much smaller scale, and unfortunately that had to wrap up because the council couldn't afford to do it, and I very much regret that we're having to afford to do this, but we're not getting the resources to do it properly. I think the other comment that I would make is that although there are very definite environmental benefits in taking food waste out of the residual waste stream, and the county council are going to take it, put it through an aerobic digester, generate electricity, that's all very, very good, and the fact that it isn't going into landfill and generating methane is tremendous as well. But the costs of shipping it down to Farrington for the AD, the anaerobic digester, the county council should be helping with that. They're going to make about between £4 and £5 million by generating the electric that comes from the food waste, and they should be sharing that with some of the districts who are getting all the costs. So this is a frame that I've returned to meeting after meeting after meeting, but I won't shut up until the county council give us a bit more of the funding rather than shunting costs onto us all the time. So further comments and questions? Sarah? Andrew?
Okay. I spent last week some time in Cone Library with the excellent Leanne, who was there to try to persuade the people of Combe that this is what they wanted to do. And this poor lady, over 3 hours, just met a wall of negativity. I felt for her. She was showing the fabulous locking mechanism of the handle of the caddy so that it can be locked and then opened. And honestly, people are going, don't want it, won't do it. And she just had this for hours. This poor lady, she kept going. She convinced me. We got hens. So previously, before then, I thought, well, we don't need it. But she convinced me. The tea bags and all kinds of things that we could put in there. I thought, yes, I'll do this. It'll be excellent. We're going out. We're going to Asda. We're going to Sainsbury's. We're going to the library, and we're sort of meeting people who don't have jobs in the day. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I think that we need to take a more mass market approach. So it struck me, how could you persuade me before I met Leanne, which I would have been unlikely to do had I not happened to be there, how could you persuade me? And I thought, what is it that you'd want to get rid of? So, what about smelly bins? Because the bin smell will almost certainly go if you use these caddies. So you could have like a whole series of videos of people lifting up the bins and going, so fresh. You could do that. You could also, what do mummies do? Mummies finish up the children's food. They don't really want to, but they sort of do, and they don't, you know, they're having to eat the children's food. How wonderful. You could place it as a health benefit. Put it with a clear conscience into the caddy. Don't eat your children's food. It's fine. You can eat later. What else have I come up with loads of ideas here. I think we need to sell the green benefits. This whole electricity, we're not doing that. Leanne was doing all the practicality of embedding it into your life, but selling those green benefits and saying you're helping out, it's so little work for you. And then it struck me that we could do perhaps a little bit of competition, because I put it on my councillor page yesterday. I shared a Pendle Council post, and I got a wall of negativity again from people. And then some other people came in and they said, the Welsh can do it. And then other people said, yeah, I've been on holiday in Wales, there's no problem at all, even the Welsh can do it. So that's another thing that you could do, that other people have managed to assimilate this very, very easily into their lives. But I think we've got an enormous, logistically, David Walker obviously is doing an excellent thing. Fully agree with the finances. It's totally wrong that it's not, it's being imposed on us and it's not being paid for. Fully agree with that. But I think we have an enormous mountain to climb for most people who are just saying, don't want it. And we've got to, yes, Leanne, people like that, libraries, supermarkets, but we've got to do something else that's going to get those other people, and it's going to be hard.
Thank you, Sarah. The mind boggles if our staff have got to spend 3 hours with every single adult in Pendle to persuade them that it's a good idea. So it's probably not a calculation that I want to do at the moment. But I would like to comment that the previous scheme that we had, which was a pilot and it was in tourist areas, was popular, and people appreciated that the food waste was going. So I don't accept that there is universal negativity to this. I think that yes, there is a lot of concern, and as far as our household is concerned, virtually all of the food waste, the vegetable peelings and the like, goes into the compost. My missus complained bitterly that we have these boxes, cardboard boxes of compostable material that I only occasionally take down to the compost heap and put it in. But we still have some food waste. You know, we might get a takeaway. You can never eat all your takeaway, so there's a bit of food there that wouldn't go in our compost bin. So I think, yes, there is a lot of this hostility to this, and we do need to sell the benefits. But at the same time, I always come back to, we've been forced to do this. Don't blame us. You want to blame somebody else. So, let's just try and concentrate on the positive stuff. And I have asked our communications people to look at the human side of this. You know, not, well, this is a wonderful caddy. You know, nobody's bothered about a piece of plastic. You know, let's celebrate the human side of it and look at the way in which you can involve people, and agreeing with Sarah, you know, sort of look at what positive we can bring out of it. Right, I've got Andy, Zafar, and then David. Andy.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say pretty much exactly what's been said already. Is I know we've had reports saying there's going to be a lot of people happy, but I've had a lot of people who are going, why? Why do we need another bin? That's more space we need for it. Why is it going to be in there? It's going to. And I've seen these comments, and I've also had it. Somebody's actually said, well, what you can do is if you don't really want to use it, if you are doing composting, you can actually go. Somebody actually said you can go online and you can say, please come and collect it. So you're not going to be incumbent with it if you do really don't want it. But I personally would say it's always a good idea to have it. But like you said, you're not putting food waste in a bin. You're not going out putting your rubbish out, and it's like, well, put that down, especially in the heat of summer. I think there is positives with this, but it's got to be clear that we've got a legal duty from central government, but we're saying to the population is, we would like you to do it, but we can't come in and do it for you. You've got to make that conscious decision. So that's all I've got.
I'm looking forward to having the little caddy that I can use to take the stuff down to the composting. It'll be a lot more convenient. But Zappa.
Yeah, I was just going to say I don't mind eating porridge for kids in the morning. It's quite tasty actually. So I'll probably carry on with that. But colleagues are right. Colleagues are right in terms of ongoing marketing. I will be, and I'm sure officers are hearing this as well. But I will be urging officers that we need to be dynamic and we need to, as you say, you know, talk real life, which we are. You know, we've had quite a lot of work gone into digital boards, events in supermarkets, obviously leafleting, etc. And as things go on, no doubt officers and colleagues will be monitoring participation. In particular in Nelson, you know, we're hoping to launch. Well, we've agreed the budget and the advert's gone out for an environmental warden. And one of the projects I'll hopefully be talking to David about is to, through the environmental warden, is monitoring participation of this scheme, and hopefully other town councils might follow suit in the near future.
Thank you, Zafar. David?
A couple of questions. Apparently the bins are Italian and made in Italy. Is that right?
Oh no.
Can't we all buy British?
Oh.
There are no British bin manufacturers, caddy manufacturers.
Isn't the attraction of that continental vibe selling it? No.
Continental living, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to bring David in a bit, but I think the response is that you've got to put a tender out, and I recall that the blue bins, when they came in, they were made in Spain. So, you know, if you just open yourself up to a bit of a more of a cosmopolitan outlook, David.
I just thought there might be economies of scale if we got all our bins from the same maker. That was all. Anyway, but we've also talked about what happens if they get lost, stolen, damaged, etc., etc. And we had a sort of general policy, which was if people have a recycling bin, then they can be replaced free of charge. So do we have a policy for what's going to happen when they're lost, stolen or damaged?
Well, David, your group would no doubt want to charge
if
my
not,
group
if not for the bin itself, at least for the admin associated with it.
Okay. There isn't a policy to charge or anything like that. Are there any further comments or questions from councillors?
No.
David, do you want to either respond or add to or make any further contribution, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. No, I think the comments have been really supportive. I think it's appreciative that people realise this is not a Pendle Council driven scheme. It is driven by central government, and I think a lot of the comments around the negativity that you're seeing on Facebook are really aimed at central government's decision and not Pendle, but as Pendle is going ahead and delivering this as it has to by law, then we are experiencing those negative comments, I suppose. On the positive, I think if I may, blowing the team's trumpet for the team, it is, as you said, one of the biggest things that we've done for many years, and I think the team are really pulling well to bring this along. So I think just if I have to say anything, it'd be a thank you to the team. So that's it, Chair, thank you.
Good, thank you very much. I was in a meeting with district leaders across Lancashire this morning, and a comment from, well, maybe two of them, certainly one, was that they were worried they weren't going to get the caddies in time. So please can I suggest, David, that you guard the caddies that we've got with your life, because we don't want 43,000 stealing and spiriting away to another part of the county, whether they are Italian, Spanish or any other lingua franca. Okay, I think we're just accepting this report, aren't we? So can we do that? Thank you. And moving on then, Pendle Leisure Trust proposed lease extension. Can I bring Dean in on this one, please? Sorry, Dean.
Thank you. So,
well, I know it's Hanif's bag, but he's a member of the Leisure Trust board, so I'm just keeping it away from him a bit.
Oh, yep.
Philip.
Yeah.
I'll do it, Chair, if that's okay. I'll
Chair?
No.
Okay, I'll be fairly brief, Chair. So, purpose of the report is to seek agreement to the extension of the current management and facility leases between the Council and PLT through to 31st of March 2033. And so the recommendation within the report is to grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Leader of the Council to grant this extension subject to receipt of detailed procurement and subsidy control advice. So briefly, Chair, the report goes through the background to PVC's legal agreement with PLT, which has been in place since the year 2000. It talks about the benefits of that agreement and the investment that's been undertaken at the leisure facilities. It talks about the increase in service users. It talks about work that's been undertaken to reduce the management fee paid by the council, and highlights other leisure and social outcomes and benefits that PLT have delivered in partnership with the council over the last 26 years, should I say. Members are obviously aware that LGR is on the horizon, and that will bring a significant amount of new work to the authority to a very, very tight timeline. So within this context, there really is insufficient time to undertake a thorough and full review of our leisure arrangements prior to the extinguishment or termination of the current contracts, which would expire in October 2028. So on that basis, we're proposing a 4.5-year extension through to the 31st of March 2033. And as set out at paragraphs 5.2 and 5.3, the rationale for this is it will provide continuity to both parties, will minimise risk, will allow PLT to plan for the future, to make further efficiencies and to build partnerships with partners within Pendle and beyond. And the rationale for 2033 is that it will take us through and beyond the first years of LGR, Chair, and give the new authority a bit of breathing space to come up with their strategic plans for the future of leisure provision and to make decisions that they wish to do so. So we think this is a sensible and pragmatic way forward, Chair, and so as I say, the recommendation is to extend the contract and to grant delegated authority to the Chief Exec in consultation with yourself to agree the detailed arrangements going forward. So leave it there, Chair.
Thank you very much. Hanif, I think you do need to declare the interest, but you've got a dispensation.
Yes,
yeah.
can I declare that?
Yeah, and then do you want to...
Me?
No, do you want to speak?
No, you actually ably, I was going to 90% of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
I think this is important. It gives them space. They are our key partner. We've got to support them as well. But at the same time, we've got to look at LGR and say, look, what's coming forward. So we've got to give the new authority space, breathing space. So I think 4.5 years is very reasonable. I know they asked for a lot more, but I think 4.5 years as chair is very reasonable, and we should move it.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to second. The one thing that I'm delighted about is that if we were sat in this room 3 years ago, the previous administration was always talking about, well, we're going to be bankrupt and all that sort of stuff. and some of the previous administration councillors were saying, well, we can't afford 3 leisure centres, sports centres. I'm delighted that we're part way through a £5.4 million investment programme in our sports and leisure centres, which will make them more sustainable both financially and environmentally, and set them up to be sustainable and succeed in the new unitaries when there'll be a lot of pressure because of the social care costs sucking everything in, for these discretionary services to be under threat. So I welcome the proposal to extend the lease, and I am very, very supportive of that investment, which has come about because of Pender Council's decisions in terms of investment, capital programme, bids and the like, and long may they continue to succeed. Thank you very much. I've got Sarah and then bring Asgad.
Just very, very briefly, there was concern raised by Councillor David Clegg on Tuesday night's Combe Town Council about this item being on the agenda. So we're delighted to see paragraph 5.4, which states that there is flexibility for the Town Council to look at potentially taking on some of the facilities, one of the facilities that is included within this lease. So we'll let David Clegg know that he can breathe a sigh of relief.
I've spoken to Councillor Clegg only today, and I did cover that off. Thank you very much. Asgad.
Thank you, Chair. I echo your views on your comments on this. We have invested millions of pounds over the last couple of years as part of this administration, and I fully support the extension to the lease. I think there's huge potential to develop, and with LGR happening, like Philip kind of laid out the kind of strategic view on this, it gives us a bit of stability for the next couple of years, and then gives it 2-3 years for LGR to kind of find its feet and develop and find like a new vision for the future for leisure services. So fully support this.
Thank you very much. Andy?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think this report is actually quite a very good example of common sense, that we're not disrupting a service because of LGR, that we're actually giving their breathing space both for the PLT and for the new unitary. So I wholeheartedly support this motion.
Very good. Let's put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. Okay, item 8 is the update to the medium-term financial plan, and as ever I'll introduce this and then pass over to Karen and Dean on my left, who will be able to regale you with any detail that people want. But this, I think, despite the fact that we have still got to find almost £900,000, does reflect the hard work that our officers have done on bridging the gap, work that continues, but bridging the gap between the income coming in and the expenditure going out. And that's despite these huge bills that we get in for food waste, which we've just been talking about, the cost shunting that the County Council has wanted to push on to us, and the changes that are happening all over the place with different funding streams. So I'm optimistic that we will get to the end of this budget cycle and will be, as Pender Council, in a reasonably good place. You know, we're not going to be flush by any means, but I think that we can bridge the gap, and this medium-term financial plan sets out how we get to, or how we will get to the other side of local government reorganisation, with this authority in a strong financial position and in a position where it can hold its own with the other authorities that it's joining with, whichever shape or form that may be. So the issues that I think that we've got is it's not numbered, but on the pages aren't numbered either, but there's reference to the index of multiple deprivation, where actually deprivation in Pendle worsened between the two periods that it was measured, and yet the so-called fair funding settlement doesn't actually recognise that and provide us with the resources that it ought to have done, and the funding settlement is far from fair and could have been a lot better off. A big issue with this, which officers are working on, is the business rates, NNDR, and that work is ongoing, but the government have reset the business rates, and that's not necessarily good news. We don't have the benefits of the pool that we had, and that's a downside for us. So that's moving away from us, and that's regrettable. The paragraph 3.14, and somebody asked earlier on, well, how much is there in the revenue support grant for emptying the bins? And you recall it's about the food waste bins. You recall that the cost of that is about £1.2 million. And if you read paragraph 3.14, the additional funding of £25,000 has been provided as funding for local services. And what I read into that is that there's beggar all that's been provided for emptying the food waste bins, which is costing a fortune. So if we manage to meet those challenges, we're not slashing services as some would have us do. I think we're doing a pretty good job, because nobody likes paying the council tax, but there again, if they pay council tax and they get fewer and less services, then they're even angrier still. So I would move this report, invite any questions that people might have. Asjan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to second the report, and again, it's a very detailed report. I think for a very long time we've not had a 3-year assessment, so I think this gives a bit more stability. Again, it's a very detailed report, and you kind of covered most of the ground there. Hopefully you'll have a balanced budget.
Thank you very much. David, when you last attended the executive, you were questioning whether we'd have a cumulative deficit of £7 million, and I said, well, it's all academic because it's going to be different. The figures are set out, and they have put an extra line in, especially for you, to say which is in year and what's cumulative. David, up to you.
Thank you, David. Yes, I think obviously this paper is very detailed. It goes through all the changes that have happened since the last time we looked at it, and there's been a lot of ups and downs on the journey to the new set of numbers. You touched on the fact that you've got this comparison between the needs allocation and the resource allocation. So the needs allocation, we should have got more, for sure. We are an area of deprivation. We should score very highly on that one. To somehow downgrade us in that respect and not give us any more it's a shame. It's balanced slightly by the resource allocation, acknowledging the fact we've got a low tax base and therefore they're not taking as much away from that number, because obviously they're recognising that we can't raise significant amounts of new funding and new council tax. So swings and roundabouts, that one, but yes, you'd have liked a much clearer picture from the government when it came to allocating that money. Obviously working through, as you say, there's some unders and overs. We're not going to get paid for all the food waste stuff, but we know we've got that pension reduction as well, which feeds through. approximately 400,000 a year, giving us 1.2 million over the 3-year period. The table 3 and the paragraph underneath. Obviously, when I look at this, and Dean and I had a separate chat as was recommended last time round. So we went through what the in-year position is and the cumulative position. So when we say that it rises to be 2.243, that is the position only for the 3rd year. Along the way, we've used up reserves of 892, 1987, and then the 2243. So that all adds up to 5.1 million. If we do nothing at all, as the paragraph below says, there are plans underway to work through these estimates, come up with things to either look at cutting services or to look at charging for things, like perhaps the admin fee associated with lost green caddies, perhaps. So those are the sorts of things where these things are going to come back to you, and they're going to come back to the whole council to be able to consider as to how to bridge that gap. Because if you look at table 3, the 5.1 million used over the 3 years, plus the 1.5 on the line above with the 3 lots of 500, that comes from the budget strategy reserve, I believe, we're using a total of 6.6 million. Now obviously, by the time we get to the end of 27-28 in the middle there, that's when LGR takes place, but I'm assuming we'll be having to run independently for some things and merging other things together. So it's really just a note that they are the numbers. They're still on the downside overall, but there's efforts to be made by all of us, to accept some of the changes that need to be put in there. I think as Karen writes in paragraph 320, there's a number of underlying and arguably unavoidable budget pressures and they need to be reflected properly. Otherwise, we're just kidding ourselves. So let's see what we can do in terms of getting this year's overspend in the budget and then also roll into the next few years or so.
Thank you, David.
It's not all doom and gloom.
Okay. Well, I will never cease to remind you that 3 years ago, when you were handling the finances of this council, you were saying in 3 years' time we'll be bust. And here we are, 3 years later, we aren't bust, and I think we're doing quite well at keeping an even keel. You won't mind me reminding you of that, and it won't be the last time either. Just on the pensions, I've been battling away on the pension fund committee since last autumn in order to get a much better settlement as contribution rate, not only for Pendle Council but other authorities across Lancashire. And we have the decisive meeting tomorrow afternoon. You can watch it on the live stream, no doubt Dean will be doing. And my proposal would mean that Pendle Council would be a further £1 million better off as part of a further reduction in the contributions. So my plan is to help make the balanced budget by ensuring that the contributions are reduced, because currently the pension fund on average is 135% overfunded, 35% more funding in the pension fund than is needed to cover the pension liabilities, and there is no need for that fund just to keep on growing and growing and growing like topsy. So that's part of the way that I would help to address that deficit. Current Dean, is there anything further you want to chip in with?
Sorry, yeah, everything's pretty much been covered, but just to reiterate, the financial settlement that we actually received, it doesn't feel good for us, and it doesn't take deprivation into account as much as we believe it should do anyway. But on the plus side, it is a 3-year settlement, although it does say that it may be subject to change, so don't bank on that. But it's all as it's set out in the report, and work is still ongoing to try and get much closer to a balanced budget by the time we report in February.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, it's moved and seconded. All happy to accept that. Thank you very much. Yep. Item 9 council tax support for terminally ill people. That this was something proposed, yes, I think it was your proposal at council a little while ago. We've come up with a scheme that we think fits the bill, and one that I very much welcome in easing the burden for people in very, very distressing circumstances indeed, and ensuring as best we can that people who are suffering enough don't have further suffering from unsustainable council tax bills. This is subject to consultation, and the precepting authorities, I think they've still got to come back to us.
No, they've actually come back.
Oh, we have got a response from them, and it is part of the consultation on our budget as well, which runs until sometime early February, so people still have an opportunity to comment on this. Nevertheless, this is the first of the building blocks in order to ensure that we can adopt the scheme by the council when we get to the budget meeting. Was somebody indicating over here? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can I just thank the officers for working behind the scenes on this item. Obviously, this came to the council, as you said, a number of months ago, where there was a unanimous decision, perhaps rare, certainly for Pendle Council's viewpoint, but something that I felt strongly about. But can I just, before I say a few other things, can I just check something, Chair? Because I'm looking at the report, and it might just be my kind of the lawyer hat on, reading too detailed into this, but it says approved, this is 2.1, approve the inclusion of additional council tax reduction. Now, there's a difference between an exemption and a reduction. It might be the same thing, but are we going ahead for a complete exemption, or because that's what we certainly discussed, that's what I suggested. Okay. It seems to be a reduction and not an exemption. Is that the case?
Yeah.
Dean seems to be nodding.
There are some authorities that have done similar things to this. We've taken advice from the Council of Manchester where things have been implemented, and their very strong advice has been not to do what they did because it has caused a lot of problems. So this is a way of providing that exemption from paying council tax to, but in a practical and workable way. Karen?
Yeah, and it's also so that we can include it as part of our council tax reduction scheme. Being a small district council, if we don't include it as the part of the council tax reduction scheme, we would bear the full cost of this, whereas by putting it in the council tax reduction scheme, the preceptors bear the cost and we just bear our share. So that's why we called it a reduction, because it will be part of the scheme. That's what we're aiming to do.
Thank you,
yes,
Chair.
Sir.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful to Karen for clarifying that. Now, I hear what you say about I know Manchester had a total exemption, and that's what the kind of model that I looked at, and that's the similar kind of proposal. Now, this report is silent as to what issues that, I'm not saying that there aren't issues. Can we have something, I know it's going to come to council again, just a section in there just to see what, I'm not understanding what issues Manchester Council had in terms of when they enforced a full exemption. Is that something that could be addressed?
The effect for people in this unfortunate position will be the same.
Net effect is the same.
Yeah. They won't have to pay any council tax.
Oh, okay. So my misunderstanding.
We're doing it in such a way that
it's shared.
The cost is shared across the county council and the other bodies that are funded by council tax, and we don't fall into the pitfalls that the early adopters did.
Yeah, no, that's fact, Chair. Perhaps my misunderstanding, I thought what you were saying was it's going to be, that's fine, I understand that. That perhaps explains, because Manchester, of course, is not a tiered system as we are in Pendle, and it's Lancashire, so their system perhaps, that I think that might be the issue with Manchester had, because they weren't a tiered system and they've got a better full brunt.
Yeah.
So Chair, I've seen the report. Apart from that one issue, that was my only question mark. I wasn't sure about whether there was going to be a reduction, but as long as the affected person, their net effect is there's no change. That's the key thing.
Yeah, and if we need to put another paragraph in the report, we will do.
Yeah, no, Chair, thank you.
We've got Asgard and then Ash.
Chair,
Oh, sorry, sir.
I was going to second the proposal. I think it's a great line of your. The motion came forward originally from Councillor Iqbal, and then a lot of great work has been done behind the scenes by officers, and we're implementing this further to the consultation. So fully support this.
Good, thank you very much. Was it Sarah or Ash first?
Okay.
Ash, so Sarah.
My father died in middle age, and my mother nursed him at home, and I remember the stress that she was under. And so I fully support this, in that when you're uncertain, there's so much that's uncertain. You're dealing with a person that's dying in your house, and the bills are still coming in. If that just lifts a little bit from people in this situation, I do recognise the positive effect of it.
Thank you. Ash.
Thank you. Interestingly, as Councillor Iqbal proposed this, we were discussing this as a group and sort of deciding whether to bring a motion to council, and you just picked us to the post really in terms of bringing it, but we fully supported the motion at the time, because it's something that we all understand and care about. I have a friend who's suffering from motor neuron disease at the moment. He's having to renovate his property to make his life easier towards the end of he's got a decent prognosis at the moment, but it's costing an awful lot of money just to make his life livable. He just needs to spend a lot of money just to do daily tasks. So something like this is a great way to ease that burden. But I think that there's a real credit where it's due to Karen for writing this up. I think that some of the concerns about, and I hate saying this, but some of the concerns around abuse of the scheme that could take place. We all know that any council scheme can be abused. I think there's some brilliant sort of catch-all caveats in there. I think that there's some really good information about backdating and about, and it's because we get caught up in that in the midst of turnarounds and what's going on. So I think it's a really well-written report and a really well-written policy. So credit where it's due, and I fully support it.
Good. Can we put that to the vote? Those in favour, please show. Thanks very much. Item 10, referral from West Craven Area Committee about health services. And this has been the subject of council debate as well. Can I bring Councillor Lawler with him?
You can, Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it's a continual issue in West Craven that we haven't had a help centre. We've got a new building from the old Yorkshire Bank building, which was renovated, but is the use of seemingly is just not. And it's unbelievable, really, that we're not having the services locally that residents should have, and they're having to travel as far as Burnley or further afield, in some cases to receive some quite routine care, as well as the doctor's surgery being way over capacity, and not being able to give appointments in reasonable times for even simple things like blood tests. So I think it is vital that we do seek a health centre in West Craven. My suggestion would be to invite the Director of Public Health, Dr. Sakti, and someone from the Integrated Care Board to meet with representatives from West Craven to discuss the provision of a health centre.
Yeah, I would certainly support that. The so-called clinic on Newtown is a white elephant. NHS Property Services refurbished the building, provided small treatment rooms, and it's just empty. Airedale midwives have been using it, but that's it. All the services that we were promised have failed to materialise. The closed books clinic sold it off, you know, earned a pound of flesh, disappeared down the road and not to be seen. In the meantime, we've got a crumbling surgery for the GPs, which is inaccessible to most people, being steps all over the place. And it's like we're the forgotten end of the forgotten end. And I hope that we can effect some change by inviting Dr. Sakti Karundati. I probably mispronounced Sakti's name, and the ICB, who I think we should be asking them to make good on the promise of the neighbourhood services that we are supposed to be getting. So I would second that. Are there any further comments? No. Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Item 11, referral from Nelson, Brighfield and Reilly Committee, land to the rear of the garden zone, Fleet Street, Nelson. I'm happy to move that we do this. Seconded. Any further comments? If not, can we accept that? All in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Item 12, referral from Coleman District Committee. This is a car park off Byron Road, and I'd like to propose that we do agree to this. Coleman District Committee were putting all sorts of covenants on, or they would like to put all sorts of covenants on, but what I'd like to move is that we do declare the car parking land off Byron Road surplus requirements for transfer to Coleman Cricket and Bowling Club at nil consideration, and just call it a draw at that. I think you know, if they're doing some good work, we ought to help them along the way. Move and second. All those in favour, please show. And that the Director of Resources be delegated authority to agree the terms and conditions of disposal.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dean. Right, that's that one. Item 13 is the forward plan. If we can note that. We are now going on to items that are exempt. We have to discuss these in private. So there's a resolution to exclude press and public. For anybody that's been watching us on the live stream, and I thank you very much, we are going to have to kick you out. So we'll simply move the appropriate resolution. Moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Thank you.